Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Potter Podcast. For those of you that are joining us live, welcome. Love you guys on Facebook, and thank you guys for following us as you tune in and listen, or watch, I should say, as we go through different topics and things that we discuss here with real estate. And so today's topic is breaking down what the different markets look like. So a lot of us and a lot of you probably hear things discussed and talked about from a real estate perspective as it pertains to markets, a lot of the time as a seller's market or a buyer's market, or a new term that some of you may not know of, which is called a stratified market, and what that means. And so I'm going to break all of those things down for you guys so you can understand what those things are and mean, and how it will benefit you if you are a buyer or a seller in this market that I'll be discussing. So let's just start off with, since we're in it right now, is a seller's market. And so what does it mean when you hear somebody talk about, well, it's a seller's market? So here's what I want to break down for you. First of all, so if you're a seller, obviously, seller's market, it's going to benefit you for the most part. And what I mean by that is if you are someone that's thinking about listing your house, or someone that is interested in potentially listing your house because of the values that have changed, or you've seen other houses in your neighborhood go up for sale and you can't believe they're selling for that price, typically is what gets more people listing their house and on the market, because they see their neighbor's house sell and they're like, I can't believe that this house sold, right? And so seller's market basically means this. It means that it is the current market that we are in here in Omaha, Nebraska, and in a lot of places throughout the country. And what it means is, in most cases, it's benefiting the sellers. And here's why. It's because there is a low inventory and there is a high demand, which means there's a lot more buyers out in the market and that are pre-approved and ready and willing and able to buy a house, but there's not enough houses on the market for them to buy. Hence, why you see a lot of multiple offer situations, and you see a lot of houses that are going for 15, 20, sometimes 30, or even 50 times over the asking price, which is crazy when I think about that, but it has happened, and it not necessarily here in Omaha, but it has happened throughout the country. And as I've talked with other people that I know, other realtors, other students that I coach across the country, I've heard some crazy stories. And so what I want to talk to you is, how does this benefit you as a seller in a seller's market? And then I'm going to get to a buyer here. So as a seller, obviously it benefits you because you get top dollar, if not more than what you were expecting to get for your house. Because in most cases, if you're in the price range that demand is high, you're going to have anywhere from 5, 10, 15 buyers that are interested in wanting to purchase your house. And so they're going to be willing to pay more for your house, and they're going to be willing to waive contingencies such as inspections, sometimes appraisals, sometimes all these different other things to get the house because they want it. And they're probably in most cases tired of writing up 5, 6, 7 times and not getting anything. So that is the thing to think about if you are in that position right now, where you're thinking about possibly listing your house, or wondering what the value of your home is and what you can get for it. Now's the time to talk to a realtor, preferably me or someone on my team, of course. But now is the time to figure out what your value of your home is, as homes around you continue to sell, and they continue to sell way higher than they probably should. But that's the benefit of being in a seller's market and taking advantage of it as a seller. Now, as a buyer, you need to understand that there are some things that you're probably not going to be able to get in a seller's market. In a lot of those cases, if you're in that price range, at least here in Omaha, so I'm going to give an example. If you're in that price range of $250 and below, there is probably a good chance that you're not going to get any closing costs paid for by the seller. So if you're someone that needs closing costs to help you close on the house, I'm going to tell you good luck, because in very few circumstances and cases, you're going to be able to find that, especially if the house is move-in ready, updates have been made, and the seller has multiple offers on the table. In most cases, that's the first thing that a buyer is willing to pass off and cancel out of the contract and say, listen, we're just going to pay our own costs and costs, and not us, the seller, to do that. I will tell you this, if I am a listing agent and I'm representing the seller and we've got 10 offers on the table and 3 of those offers are asking for closing costs, they very quickly get moved to the side and we're looking at the other 7 on the table. So that will give you an idea of an inside look, I should say, from the other side and the seller side there, and what is probably happening in those cases, okay? You also need to understand that because the competition is so high, you're gonna probably have to pay more than what the listing price is. So if you are pre-approved for a certain amount, I would say, and you're comfortable being in a certain amount and paying for that, I would say that you probably need to be planning on looking at things $10,000 to $15,000 below what that comfortable mortgage payment is going to be for you price range wise. So let me give you an example. If you're a buyer and you're pre-approved for, let's say, $180,000, but you want to stay at least around like $160,000, you should be looking at houses at $145,000, $150,000, because that will allow you then to do an escalation clause of going up to $160,000 and not feeling like you should be paying you should be paying more to go get that house. That's what you're going to have to do in a seller's market. Okay, nobody's coming in below the listing price, and if they do, they're quickly getting moved off to the side. And I think most good agents know that. I can tell you this: I've listed numerous houses here in the last few months, and every single offer that has come in on those houses has been well over the asking price that we've agreed upon the contract on. So you need to be prepared to know that that's what you're going to be dealing with as you move forward in that kind of stuff. So another thing that you need to be aware of as you are the buyer in the seller's market is you got to be willing to give up something, right? Okay, the negotiating side of things, unfortunately, is very difficult for us to negotiate really anything for you in a seller's market, because like I said, if there's 10 other offers on the table, what are you going to do to make yourself stand out? Now, obviously, if you have a really good agent, we've got some solutions and we've got some things that have worked well for us, and that helps. But that doesn't guarantee that it's always going to work, okay? So you need to talk to your agent if you're a buyer and say, okay, in this current market, you need to ask them the question, what are you going to do for me, or what are some solutions that I can start preparing for in order to go get a house in my price range and what I'm wanting, okay? So you need to know those things as you go about doing that as a buyer. Now listen to your agent and trust your agent, okay? Especially if this agent is in this market constantly. Again, I preach this all the time. If you're working with a part-time agent, or you're working with someone that just does this as a side hustle on the side, get rid of them, because they don't know what's happening in the market on a daily basis. You want to hire a full-time agent who has experience and who has knowledge and who knows how to be aggressive and go out and get this house for you, okay? Just because this is a family friend that your parents told you about, or it's someone that, and I'll speak to that in a minute, and it's someone that is just your friend and just got his license, probably not the person that you're going to want to be representing you, because they're not in the market, or they haven't been in it long enough to know what needs to take place. Okay, now if they're on a team and they have a team leader that's going to help them through that process, then that obviously helps. But I would say for the majority, don't ever go with someone that's a part-time agent, or that is, and again, I'm not trying to dog part-time agents or whatever, but I kind of am. Just for the fact that, like, they don't know what's going on in the market. And in this industry right now, it's changing on a daily basis, okay? So when I say that you need to get somebody that knows what's going on a daily basis, you need to get somebody that knows what's going on a daily basis. And you need to know, and they need to know what's happening from a sell side and from a buy side, so that they can represent you to your best, I should say, interests and to their best ability. So keep that in mind, okay? The other thing that you need to keep in mind, and what I just said, is you got to be willing to give up something. Okay, so the negotiation is kind of out. Like it's literally like, what are we gonna do to go get this property, right? So you might be giving up a lot of things in order to go get this house. One of those being you're giving up more money to go get this house. You're giving up some contingencies, whether you waive an inspection or you're gonna pay a couple $1,000s more if the appraisal comes back below. You're gonna meet that seller and pay a difference there. Things like that you're just gonna have to think about if you really want to go get the house in this current market. So that's how crazy it can be in a seller's market. And obviously, as a seller, the seller's usually and typically happy because they're getting top dollar for their house. Okay, the only thing that is going to affect the agreement or the purchase price is potentially going to be something that may come up on the inspection, that you come down and you negotiate some costs there or whatever. But the other thing is, in most cases, there's not an inspection, and now you're just waiting on the appraisal to take place. And with the appraisal, it's kind of in the appraiser's hands. It's up to them, and so the trust and the reliance goes on them to hopefully look at what people are willing to pay for that property and how many offers came in on it, and then also the comparables around it to support that price. And so you have to keep in mind that they have the final say. So again, don't get mad at your realtor if your appraisal comes back below. Just be thankful that he got you top dollar for it. Okay, you want to basically get top dollar for your house, and in most cases you're going to get that, even if you have to come down in price a little bit because of the appraisal. Again, if you're getting multiple offers and you're going 10, 15 grand over the asking price, you should still be happy with that if the appraisal comes back $5,000 below, right? You're still getting $10,000 more. You're still getting more than what you had listed. Again, the list price is a starting point. And then the agreed upon price is what a buyer's willing to pay for your home. So keep that in mind. So that is a seller's market. It basically leverages the seller in that current market. Now let's go into a buyer's market. Obviously, you can probably tell based off of what you just learned now from a seller's market that a buyer's market flip-flops that, right? That means that there is more houses available for a buyer. And that means that as a buyer, there's going to be a lot more houses to choose from. And then as a seller, your house is probably going to sit a little bit longer than normal. Right now, I have sellers that get crazy when their house is sat for like more than 3 days. They're like, why hasn't our house sold yet? Well, give it time. It will sell. It will sell very soon, But in a buyer's market, a lot of times that house can sit for a month, 2 months, 3 months because of the inventory now that has got brought up. Now, here in Omaha and here in our country, I think I can speak confidently in saying that I don't think that's anything close to what we're going to start seeing in the near future. I could be wrong, but I think there's a lot more inventory that we need to see. I mean, I'm speaking from what I know here in Omaha, we would need thousands of more houses to come on the market in order for this to shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market. So that explains the buyer's market, and you can see how that would then benefit the buyer, right? Because now the buyer has the negotiating power where they're not necessarily dealing with multiple offers or different things like that. They can come in, they can ask for closing costs and potentially get them from the seller. They're not competing with other people, so sometimes they can go and negotiate a lower price. So again, the buyer's market is going to benefit them as the buyer, and then the seller has to understand that, okay, there's got to be some give and take here. Like, do I want to sell my house or do I want to keep it on the market longer? Chances are you're probably going to want to sell your house. Then the next thing that I want to get into is the stratified market. Yeah. It's one of those markets that, and one of those terms that I don't think a lot of people hear a lot. They either hear buyer's or seller's market or fair market. But a stratified market is something that I can say we have seen in Omaha. We continue to see in Omaha. You can probably see it in other cities. And basically what that means is it's not necessarily a seller's market for all price ranges. It's not necessarily a buyer's market for all price ranges, right? So basically, one of those things that you want to be asking yourself is what kind of market am I currently in? And then also, does that apply to the current price range that we're looking at listing in or buying in? Because that could change. For example, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. I know this like freaks people out when they hear me say this number because they can't believe we have homes available in that price range. But 225 and below in Omaha, Nebraska right now is a seller's market. I mean, if your house is listed and your house is move-in ready and it has nice updates and you're under 225, there's a good chance that house is going to be gone by the end of the weekend if you list it on Thursday, okay? That's just the reality. That's the kind of market that's in. Now, I will say this, 250 to 400, there's been some houses that, quite frankly, I've been really surprised with that sell without being listed on Thursday, and they'll be gone by Saturday. And I'm like, what in the world? This is a crazy market. But like I said, if it's move-in ready, if the buyers are out there and somebody likes the house, they're going to go right on it. And if they think it's worth that much, they're going to do it. And we're seeing that here in Omaha. Now, the next question would be, as you get up into the $600,000 range, right, and the 600 plus, it's not necessarily a seller's market anymore, right? Like, hey, they may be moving quicker than what we've seen in the past, but you have to understand as a seller, when you start getting up into a higher price point, the buyer's pool begins to look a little bit less compared to what the buyer's pool is out there with like a first-time home buyer. Okay, so obviously if I have buyers that are pre-approved and they're first-time home buyers, and they're pre-approved for 300, I'm going to probably have a lot more people that are going to fit in that 150 to 300 range, right? As opposed to having people that can go buy in the 600 plus range, right? There's just a different buyer's pool for that. So that market is maybe a fair market or a buyer's market, right? There's enough houses on the market for people in that range to go look at different houses and probably not be in a multiple offer situation. So they're going to probably be able to negotiate some closing costs. They're going to be able to negotiate maybe coming down on price a little bit. They're going to be able to negotiate having a home inspection and getting some things fixed on that home inspection, right? Like there's different things as that relates to the current market and the situation and the price range that you're in. So keep that in mind as you are staying educated with the current markets and the price ranges that fall into those current markets, right? So just because you hear it's a seller's market, and if you have a house at $550,000, doesn't mean your house is going to sell overnight, right? Unless it falls under that category in your city or in that bracket for you. But I think most people, it's funny, you go out in public and you're like, oh, it's a seller's market. Well, in some cases it is, if you're in the right price range. But it could be a buyer's market if you're in a higher price range. So that's a stratified market. That's how you know the differences there. So I wanted to be clear on that. I wanted to educate you guys and let you guys know what those differences mean. What's the difference between a buyer's market, a seller's market, a stratified market, a fair market, all those things, because I think those are terms that we as realtors throw around a lot, but we don't necessarily explain them to the people listening or educating them on what exactly that means. And so hopefully that breaks that down for you guys. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for listening. If you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions whatsoever, you know where to find me. This is the Potter Podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. I appreciate all you guys following on Facebook Live right now as we're broadcasting this. And if you guys have any other topics that you want me to discuss that I haven't covered yet already, comment below. Definitely email me, text me, hit me up on social media. I'll be sure to make a note of that and definitely be able to suit your needs moving forward. So thanks, guys. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the following. Have a great day. We'll talk to you guys soon.